And so it's pretty simple to get an account as it's free. We've never charged anybody to have an account. It's Dashed's been in existence for over 20 years now, and we've never, we don't charge anybody. It's all grant funded and donated services by SRI. Um, so if you're interested in signing up for accounts, pretty easy. There's this create free account here on the top right side. You click on that and some basic information. A lot of this information isn't even truly required. You do have to provide an email address. You have to create a username. That can be anything you want. Um, you're gonna have to put a password, confirm that password. Then there is a place for you to put your name. So this is first and last name. That makes it a little bit easier for us to find things because not everybody has a username that matches up with their first name or their name. So it makes it a little bit easier for us to deal with user issues. There's a place to put a picture of yourself if you want to. Not necessary, but you can do that. Down here in this blue box, it's a little hard to see. We probably need to adjust the sizing of this and the font. But it does say their organizations. And so this is a way for you to kind of connect yourself to a particular organization within Datashed. So for instance, if I was doing this, I might put stream restoration, and you'll notice that as I start typing it, there are lists. So this actually has to be an organization that is within Datashed, and will briefly, pretty quickly here, talk about that. So it has to be, so you don't just type in anything. You know, you know, I don't know, Cliff, you can't just type in Cliff. It's not gonna recognize that. You actually have to put in an organization that is already listed within Datashed. Going down below is some additional information. Again, this is not critical, um, but this is just more of a set standard related forms related to Drupal. Your address and city, and you can put that information, but it's not required. When you get to the bottom of the screen, there is a CAPTCHA to remove. There is this button to subscribe. So we have an email and like system messages that are set up that we can send out emails to our users to. For instance, I sent out an email the other day about our server upgrade, or I sent out emails related to trainings available. So you can click on that, subscribe or unsubscribe to that, and then you hit the CAPTCHA and then hit create new account. And then what ends up happening is I will actually receive an email requesting that an account has been requested. I actually have that set up so that it gives me more control of who becomes a user. People are entrusting SRI with their data and information, so it's really important to me that I include as much security as possible to kind of prevent, things like bots from getting into the system. If I don't recognize who that person is, I will investigate. If it comes, I often will email that person and try and also find out whether or not they even need, sometimes they don't even need an account. And sometimes it is just a bot. I actually get a number of bots trying to sign up uh, all the time. So yep, I will approve that account. And so now what I want to do, I'm going to stop sharing that screen. Um, and then let's see here. Now I got to choose the right screen I'm trying to get to. There it is. Okay. Now you can see where it says welcome Cliff test user.
Yep, it's up there.
Okay, cool. All right. So so then you would have to come in. Oh, I guess I didn't show that, but it's pretty, you log in, everyone is logged into a website. So you go through your login and so this is an account, it's a fake account that I have set up for testing, and Cliff test user. And so this is set up to be just like any other person who would be signing up for Datashed, and what their page would look like. So um, currently, this user does not have any, is not associated with any projects. So to be able to enter information into an existing project, you have to become a member of that project. And there are two main ways, well, I guess in some ways, three ways to become a member of a project. The one is if you actually create a project, then you automatically become a member. But we're going to talk about right now on how to join a project that already exists. And there's two ways to do that. When you first become a member, probably the easiest way of doing this and being able to join multiple projects at one time, is that if you come over here to your, you'll see where I'm logged in, and now there's something that shows up my account. Also, I want to point out the fact that there is nothing up here that shows my projects, and you'll see that change here in a minute. So if you come under my account, this would also be the way that you could edit your account. So, you could click on this edit account tab and come in and change all. It looks just like the same form that you utilize to sign up. And so you can come in here and change that feature, change anything through there. If that makes sense. But here's where you can join a bunch of projects through this bulk join projects. It kind of sounds what it means. So if you click on this bulk join projects, it'll list every single project in Datashed that currently exists. And you just come down through this list and click on every box, every project that you want to join. Now, I highly recommend that you only join projects that you actually intend to be a member of and be able to contribute to. Again, you can see whatever data on Datashed you want to see without being a member of Datashed or even being a member of the project. This is all related to the ability to add and edit information. So, for example, maybe I want to become a member of the BC16 project and the BC19 and 19B project. I click on these two boxes. I come down, scroll down to the end. You can see there's lots of projects, and I hit submit join requests. So if I go back to the home page, you'll still see that there's no my projects listed. And that's because myself and other types of, excuse me, other people who are listed as the administrators and maybe even private managers of those projects will receive an email. And so, I think I get an email for every single one of these, regardless of whether because I'm the Datashed administrator. And there's a process for me to, I get an email, and so I can actually give that person um, um, the right to become a member of that project. Um, oh, and so what I want to do now is I want to just switch over. Um, so I'm going to stop sharing, and I'm going to switch over to my normal user, which is where is it? Okay, and oh, it's hiding that from me. Okay, so what I end up getting um, is why is that? Oh, that's annoying. Um, okay. So if I come on to, oh, Natalie, are you able, do you see the BC16?
No, so I see an email membership request. That's what's up right now. But I don't see Datashed.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Let me, yeah, what a pain trying to juggle all these screens. How about now?
There it is. Yeah, I see BC16.
Okay. So, okay, so you've submitted your request to join a membership. Um, and so, um, as a user, and if you're part of this project, you can actually see view pending memberships. Um, I already proved that through email, which I have the ability to do. But if you come on to this manage members, it brings up a list of the members and various, so information, email, and then like you'll see this column where it says rules when it was updated. So down here is this new user, and so this is the rules column, and it shows none. And so currently that means that this person is a member of the of that project, but really doesn't have much capability. And so by clicking on Edit Member, you can assign rules to this person. And um, a lot of people, and so there's all these different not rules, rules. Um, but there are rules associated with that person and what permissions they have, what they can actually do. So and this is something we probably need to write out and explain to people. But I can always help people. And a lot of times I set this up when I'm giving people access to these things anyways. A project contributor is generally just someone who would maybe be able to come in and upload data, but not necessarily have much capability of being able to edit project information. Whereas a project manager has that ability to do more just general editing type stuff, and then a project administrator has higher levels of capabilities. I don't believe that even a project administrator can delete a project. I believe that has to be something that I would do. I'm not even sure if a project administrator can delete data. And that's one of those things that, unfortunately, when you make updates these websites, or even sometimes the like we did updates to our server the other day, just the operating system of the server. It sometimes messes with the settings whenever we do updates to the actual website. Sometimes it's amazing how much can change. Even change sometimes changing something completely unrelated will change some other aspect of the website. So you know, if you ever run into any problems, always feel free to contact us. Bugs do develop from time to time. So I'm gonna give this person like manager and contributor uh, editing use. And then um, and so for this one, I don't think I actually did I? I'm not sure that I gave permission yet. No, I did. Okay. All right. So now I'm gonna do is I'm gonna switch back to the user. And I am, Natalie, I am back to the test user. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, good. Um, and so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and refresh this screen. And you'll see now that this user on now this box appears at the top, my projects, and it lists those two projects that the user had requested. And what's really nice about this my projects, particularly if you don't have a lot of projects, um, is that this becomes a very quick way to be able to get to the projects you work on. It's not particularly helpful if you have lots of projects that you're on, the way like let's say that I do, um, but you can still um, use that, um, even if you do have a lot of projects. There is, um, and so what's nice is you just kind of you just click on on the project, and it takes you to the page. Um, or you can even what you can do is if you right click on that link, you can actually open that up into a new link. And so you can actually jump back and forth. You could have multiple projects open if you wanted to. So that's a nice little feature. That way, when you come onto Datashed, you don't have to go through that search. You don't have to go to projects and go to search and type in your project. You just come in, you click on what you want to do, what project you want to work on, and you go right to that project. So that's a pretty nice feature. Um, the other way that you can join projects, so let's say you set this up, you joined a bunch of projects, and you realize at some point for whatever reason that there was a project that you wanted to become a member of, um, and that you didn't. So let's just say, for example, you came to the we're going to use this Argentine project as an example, and you realize you are not a member of that project. Under membership, under the membership tab, so you're on the project page, under this membership, there is this button that says join project. So it does the exact same sort of process, other than, and it says, it'll say that, the request has been sent to the administrator. Um, and then again, I will get, I or sometimes some of the other people will get approvals or messages to approve it and to um, yeah, and then I go through that same basic process that I was talking about before to be able to approve the project, approve that request, manage the membership, and and then that person can become a member of the project that way. Okay. So you'll see now on my projects um, that shows up again. So that kind of covers the aspects of creating a membership and how you would edit any of your own account information as well as joining projects. Um, are there any are there any questions? Let's see if there's any questions. I don't see any questions in the chat. Okay. So yeah, feel free as we go along to put any questions you have. That's fairly straightforward. Um, so now what I want to do is talk about creating well, let's talk about creating organizations. So let's say when you created your account, and you were there was no organizations for you to list. Um, so it'll still allow you to create that account because the organizations is not a required account or field. But you can come in here to organizations up here at the top on the home screen, click on organizations, and you'll see that there is a little link here that says add new organization. And so you click on that button and that link, it brings you up to a screen and it's set, so I'm just gonna, let's say this is Cliff's Fake Watershed group, and then you can put a description. This can be fairly long. You can put all kinds of information. You can put links or whatever. You know, you know, Cliff's Fake Watershed group, in Butler County. The next thing down here is this organization type. So there's only really a few organization types. We have citizens organizations, so that's what most people will tend to fall into. Let's say like a watershed group, corporation. So this could include nonprofits if you like. Nonprofits are technically corporations. This could be, let's say, if you were a design company, environmental engineering design, who's designing these treatment systems, or you want to add them in as a partner later on, so you could select that. Governmental agencies, so that could include, state agencies as well as county conservation districts, or lab. This lab was more important to a when we had what was called the FACS program where labs could come in and actually enter and upload data to Datashed from the samples that were collected. And so that was one way of having that in there. You can put in your URL for the organization. So that it shows what your website is. And then you can actually, so this is the URL, but you can actually show it. So the link text is like, instead of having this being displayed, the actual URL, you can actually have it so that it's hyperlinked with a name. You can put an email in. Again, a lot of this information is not required. So you can have an organizational email that's showing up. You can put in the address, the city, the state, zip code. You can choose. If you wanted just to show what town it's in, you could do that. Phone number. If you wanted to, you could put latitude and longitude in. Again, not necessary, um, but it is possible. And then there are some, you can attach some files. Supposedly, I actually have not messed with this myself, um, but there is a way to kind of do that. You can add organizational users. Um, Again, this isn't something I've really messed with myself recently, but so you could, um, let's say I wanted to add Natalie. you know, um, as part of the organizational name. Um, and so you get down to the end and you hit save. And so it then shows, what the name is. Again, here's the organization website. So if I click on that, I just use SRI's webpage, but um, and that's it will take or I'm on organizations. So it will take some of these may take some time to show up. Um, but this is sort of the list of organizations. We kind of talked about this in the type. You can see sort of the types of information that can be shown. So then watersheds would be the next thing. So there are at times, particularly when you're creating projects, references that you can reference a particular watershed. And I think, as I mentioned before, you're talking about watersheds. It all depends upon what level of a watershed you're talking about. And we have left that up mainly to be, at this point, to be based on the user. So the user, the watershed group, they themselves have defined what their watershed of focus is. And so that's the way we've kind of left it. We have talked about being able to maybe have some sort of system that would, then be able to reference it. So if you were maybe working in, maybe you were focused on a relatively small watershed, but you're part of a larger effort. So that might be a way. We've talked about maybe trying to figure out a way to kind of interconnect them in a way. So I do recommend that if you are going to, before you add a watershed, go down through the list and make sure that, um, that doesn't already exist. So I'm going to make up one, um, go down here and check. And so again, it's relatively simple. A lot of things in Datashed are fair. We've tried to make this pretty simple. It's a lot of it is filling out forms. And so and then we've tried as best as we can to make the forms fairly self-explanatory. A lot of the forms, we have some additional comments in there that kind of explain things. Some of these forms, we need to still do that. This watershed one is one that we don't have any real explanations for. Um, so again, if you're going to click, you know, a, um, you know, a title, you can put a description about it. This basin is supposed to there's supposed to be a drop down menu when you if you're when and you'll see this when we create the project. There's supposed to be there is a drop down menu. I'll go over it. um, um, that way that you're selecting a specific basin. There's only a few choices. This area is supposed to be in terms of the area of your watershed. Um, we don't have a set, like if you wanted to put this in acres or miles or kilometers, whatever you want to put in there, you can put in there. The extents was related to this is actually a carryover from an old from the one of the older versions of Datashed that had a little bit more some certain GIS capabilities. So you could define what the extents were. I'm not sure that that has. I don't think there's much value in that currently. You will see some watersheds that have that information defined. Um, but it's not but this is not a required thing, so you can always skip over that. There is a way to have an image for the watershed if you want, um, but again, most people don't, and it's not really necessary. um, so this is actually a bug that I saw yesterday, um, is that it brought me back to this particular watershed, which doesn't make any sense why it would automatically do that. Um, this trying to remember if this might be another thing that takes a little. Some things in Datashed quickly appear. Most things quickly appear, but there are a few things that do not just automatically show up. And I think this is one of them. That there's a process that runs in the background that will catalog these things every once in a while. It's usually every so many hours. Um, so that's how to create a watershed. Um, if you need to or want to. A lot of these already exist. A lot of the more active groups, a lot of these things already exist. Let me see. Let's see. Okay. Yep. No questions in the chat. Okay. So we've talked now about those types of things. And so what I really want to get into now is how to go about creating a project, because Datashed, the projects is the most important aspect of Datashed. That's why most people, are utilizing Datashed, right? It's because it's providing a place to store information about your projects. And so that's always our focus. Anytime that something needs to be done, we always do the work associated with projects related first. And so when you're here, when you're here on this projects page, you will see right underneath Datashed a place that says plus add new project to it. Yeah. So you click on this, and it brings up this form. So this is a pretty long form, lots of information and fields that you can enter. Um, One of the nice things about it is that you do not have to complete the entire form for the project to be created or before you can save it. And I highly actually recommend that you do it in steps because let's face it, it's a website, you're on the internet, using a computer. Who knows when your power is going to go out, when your internet's going to get kicked you off, when so I really do recommend when you're creating your project, you do it in steps, save it, and then continue to edit. And so that's what I'm gonna do that same process right here. So let's say I'm creating, we're gonna call this Cliff's Fake Passive Treatment System is the project. So then you go to project type. And so these are the same project types that you could search based on. Again, it's active treatment system, a passive treatment system, a land reclamation project, an assessment or restoration plan type. And this could be also an assessment for a discharge. It doesn't have to be like a watershed wide or stream wide. This is just a general sort of assessment type projects, and then stream monitoring. So this is for a passive treatment system. So we're going to click on that. This project status is a fairly new field that we added with the idea of being able to kind kind of be able to put notes on here about what the status of a particular project is. We have talked about trying to do some sort of way for Datashed to assess certain things, but that's more complicated. So just simply coming in here and saying, okay, is it a good and operational treatment system? Um, does it need maintenance? And by needing maintenance, we don't mean, oh, I need to go out and I need to go flush the pond, but hey, like there's a significant maintenance problem that needs to be conducted. That's the system's not really working right, needs maintenance, not operational. So yeah, that system's not working at all. Um, or maybe the system's been abandoned or no longer exists. So there are actually treatment systems on Datashed. There's not very many, but there are a few that something happened along the way. A lot of these are diversion wells that someone put in a long time ago, and something has happened, and no one cares about it, and so or it was removed. This would also be a way to let's say you had I'm going to use an example. Let's say you had a passive treatment system for many years, and you decided that it was going to now be you were now going to put in an active treatment system, or vice versa. Or let's say you're putting in some um, massive active system that no longer requires these treatment systems. And so this would be a way to kind of put in that they've been abandoned, they don't exist, they're not being utilized anymore. Um, and then you can also even put in there under development or construction. So let's say you're creating this project with the idea that maybe you've started construction, but it's not built yet, or maybe it's still under design, but you wanted to go ahead and create the project. That would be one way of doing that. So I'm going to say that, I'm going to say that, hey, this is a new system. It's been built and it's good. It's operational. And then you can also, then here's this AMD source. So you can choose, there are AMD, acid mine drainage that comes out of old abandoned oil and gas wells. That does happen. I have a few systems do that, treat that. It's not the oil and gas well that's creating the problem. It's just a conduit from AMD to enter and come to the surface. Coal refuse. You can choose from a surface mine discharge, an underground, then we have an other. And technically, assuming it still works, you can actually choose if you have more than one source, just by clicking control, you can choose more than one. Yeah. Um, so what I'm going to do is go ahead and save that. You go all the way to the bottom, create project, and become a member. And so you see it has started, it has already gone in, created the project. And then, and if you look at the membership, let's see, manage, we'll say view current members. You'll see that Cliff Test user is shown as a user, as a member. So to get back, so again, you could create this and say, okay, you know what, I got to go to a meeting now or whatever, and I'll come back later. Or just as a safety measure to save yourself time if something happens. You can come into this project settings and just click on edit project. And it brings that form back. So we can continue looking at this. So you have your original construction year. And this is something we changed. Originally, our original version of Datashed, this field was just construction year. And then we realized a few years ago that as these systems were aging, we were having to go back and rebuild projects. And so, well, now what do we do? Which year do we leave the original year in? Do we put it in the new year? So we've created a field. So we changed this to be the original construction year that was built. At the bottom of this form is a field for rebuild year. I'll just scroll down here. So most recent rebuild year. And I need to adjust this form so that they show up right after each other. I actually thought I had done that, but I guess I didn't. Um, so this we're gonna pretend this is a brand new system and it was just built this year. This description, you may remember from the past training, that this can be quite a lengthy field. I can't even remember if we put a limit on the number of characters or anything like that. So you could put multiple paragraphs of information in here. I mean, it can be, I mean, you can't put something that, this is a fake system and needs to be deleted. But you could put things in, you could have things in here about, the mining history um, or let's say this was a rebuild. You could say, the original system was, built in, 2000, and maybe it was and designed by, you know, XYZ company and whatever you want to put in here, you can put lots of descriptions in here. I believe you can even particularly if you know a little bit about um, HTML coding, I think you can even do something in there that will put in links and all that sort of stuff. But it can just be a very basic description. Your OSM ID is not something you need to worry about. This is, I think I mentioned during the first training, this is related to OSM's old database. Um, and I sometimes come back down through some of these old projects and I will sort of assign new OSM IDs with the idea that if OSM ever wants to be able to go back and redo this, I can easily send it to them and it's already been developed for them. But it's not something you need to deal with. You can put in the AMLIS ID if you know it to want. It's not necessary. A lot of these fields again are not required fields. That's another nice thing about Datashed is most of these things are not required. So you can pick and choose what you provide, and or if you don't know it, you can save it and come back to it later. So sometimes, yeah, sometimes you get here. And yeah, maybe you don't know what the total capital cost was or what the elevation of is. So you can save it, find out the answer, and come back and complete it. So this total capital cost is meant to be the cost of construction. So the cost of the materials and the piping and the actual building of the treatment system. It's not supposed to include, what your engineering costs, your permitting costs, or what your salary and benefits were from your portion, just the capital cost. This can be a complicated number to come up with, particularly depending on the way a group's accounting processes are. And so, but if you know it, you can put this number in here. So I'm just going to say that it was, $500,000. Your elevation, you might have to look that up. So we're just going to say that this is 1,200 feet. The stream, so whatever stream that the treatment system is flowing into. You can even put something like, oh, this was an unnamed trip to Seton Creek. Or if you want to do more standard UNT, to Seton Creek, or even just UNT Seton Creek. Your river basin. So I mentioned this before when we were talking about the The watershed, this is a drop down menu. Um, and so we have these river basins, the Allegheny, Delaware, Kiskee-Conemaugh, Monongahela, Ohio, and Susquehanna. Those are the choices. Sometimes people give me a little bit of a hassle, complain that I have Kiskee-Conemaugh in here as a river basin. It's not necessarily an officially recognized river basin of in Pennsylvania. A lot of people say that that is part of the Allegheny, which is true. The reason I have that in here is, well, one, I was asked, um, and two is that there were a couple organizations that were very focused on the Kiskee-Conemaugh, and there are a number of projects that are within the Kiskee-Conemaugh. So particularly like, let's say, Foundation for PA Watersheds, or the Kiskee-Conemaugh Stream Team, we're very involved, and so it was a way to kind of group projects together for them. And so that's why we have that additional river basin listed. Um, the quad is your USGS quadrangle topographic map. Your project designer. Um, so so this is meant to be like, let's say, who the engineer was. Um, and so I'll just put my name. The project designer organization. Again, this is the company, the design company that designed it. So this one actually requires this field. You can't just type in anything that you want here. This has to be from the list of organizations. So for example, let's say your designer was head in environmental, it'll automatically come up. Or let's say, and maybe it was Biomost, so it'll come up. Um, and so, well, I think I just accidentally deleted that. Um, um, so then that selects that. Your primary image is the image that you see when you're on that home, when you're on your projects page. It's at the top right corner. It's the same photo that is displayed in the search engine. And so you can do this as just a simple um, uh, drag and drop. Oops. You can use that choose file to, work your way through, or you can drag and drop. You can put, text for that project or for the picture. Um, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and save it. So you'll see that it's, we're as we're working through this, information is showing up. We now have a picture there. And I'm going to go back and edit some more. So scroll down. Um, you can put links associated with this if you want, maybe to your website or something. There is a place for some location information. Again, how much of this you fill out. Whoops, what am I doing here? Clicked on something. Um, how much, I mean, you can put an actual address in. I mean, a lot of these sites don't have a real address. You can put a city or township. I do recommend putting in the state, even though we currently only have Pennsylvania projects. I also recommend putting in the county, because again, that plays into some of these search engines, when we're, you can put in, um, you can always add in your township, and you can put in that township up there, or you can put that down here. Um, So now we get to the latitude longitude portion. And this latitude longitude is important for you to enter in because that's what connects it to the project's maps and all that sort of thing. This little drop down box is what you is how you tell Datashed what method you use to come up with the latitude longitude. I believe unknown is the default, and it's pretty typical. But there are, and most people end up either using their GPS unit or they use something like Google Earth and maps. Um, but you can also add topographic maps if that's what you're using. Latlong.net, maybe known or other. Um, I find that using Google Earth is probably the simplest way to get a lat long. Um, there is this there is this link to latlong.net, um, and I have used this in the past. You basically have to scroll around and find your location, um, and then you click on once you scroll down through, um, you find I'm not in, you find your location, you click on it, and then it'll give you what your latitude long to is. I really like just using Google Maps. It's very simple. You come on Google Maps, you find your location, same sort of deal. If you hit right click, it'll show you what the latitude longitude is. It's in a version that makes it really easy. You click on those numbers, it copies it, and then you come back in, and then you can just paste it. Now it will paste both latitude and longitude into the box, but then it's pretty easy to then just you know um, just to cut it out and paste it back uh, into this folder. Now, for whatever reason, I need to talk to the programmers. Um, there is a limit on the number of decimals that you can enter in, and this will actually cause an error message and mess you up, and Dasher will require you to fix it before you can save it. And so you will see, and there's a note below it that 6 decimals are required. And I think that is both a minimum and maximum value, I think. Um, and so um, um, and so um, and Datashed will let you know if you've messed up and ask you to fix it. Um, so then your contact person. Um, This used to be a field that was you could put anything in, and I may bring back this and have this as an additional and call this one data shed contact person versus let's say organizational contact person or project contact person. So currently this has to be a user in data shed, and actually you can kind of see that I should probably on the far right side, you'll see where there's this little circle inside the box. Some of them have that, some of them don't. When you see this little circle, this is something that indicates that you have to be choosing um, something that's already in datashed from a selection in datashed. So this is the contact person. So um, so I'm going to use this is my Cliff test user. Let's say I am the contact person, and let's say contact organization, and let's say this is, we'll just say that this is stream restoration. So again, you start typing it in, You can put a contact email, but you don't have to. Again, most of these fields you're not really required to. Same thing, website, your contact, of the city, state, this all goes into the database. The responsible organization is meant to be who is the general organization required for, let's say, the monitoring, inspecting, monitoring, and maintenance of the system. It can be different from the contact organization. So this is the contact organization is more, okay, if I wanted more information about the project, who would I contact? These can be the same. It's no problem. It's no problem for them to be different. So I'm just to put in a different user. Let's just say that the responsible organization is the Slippery Rock Watershed Coalition. Or again, maybe that's who the contact organization is, but maybe Stream Restoration is actually responsible for the monitoring and maintenance of this treatment system. And that just provides people if you were to come on this website, let's say you're a DEP and you wanted to know who you needed to contact about it, that was a way to be able to do that. You can put a website in there if you want to. If you want this project to be considered to be included in part of the project spotlight that's on the homepage, you would click on that box. This influent alkalinity is a bug. It should not be here. There's no reason for you to type in what the influent alkalinity is. I have notified the project developer. They need to remove that. That's not supposed to be here. That's just a bug. And again, the most recent build year, if you were building the system a second time or a third time, or fourth time, this would be where you place that. But again, I'm gonna move this field in the future. I'm gonna move this field so that it is located underneath the original. So again, when you're all done, so now you have basically a project page. You can see that these fields that you've entered in are showing up. Places where there's not information, but it's still set up, And so sometimes this is an easy way of knowing what you have or haven't done, right? So, the watershed may not have been chosen, or the quad may not have been chosen, and or that sort of information. So that's the kind of information that you can enter into Datashed while creating the project under that project details settings page. Now there's other project information that you enter in other locations. So let's look at some of these other blocks. The water quality data summary, there's nothing here because we have not created any sample points nor uploaded any water quality data. And so we'll get into next time. This next block is treatment technologies. And so to add a treatment technology, you just click on add new. And so you need to select what treatment tech. So these are the treatment technologies that your treatment system is utilizing. So there is a whole list of different ones to choose from. There may be ones that we probably need to add. You feel free to let us know if you need something added. Let's say we're using an anoxic limestone drain. You can put information here about that treatment system, that component. So I'm just going to make this up and say that let's say that you used 1,000 tons of limestone in your ALD. This quantity of elements is the number of those types of treatment technologies. So you know, let's say, for instance, so in this case, we're just putting in one ALD, but let's say you're putting in settling ponds. So let's say you had three settling ponds. So you could come up here and click settling ponds, and then your quantity would be three. So status is whether or not this is active or not. So the idea of this is, let's say you originally had an ALD, and then later on you decided to remove the ALD and put a vertical flow pond instead. So you could still leave the information that you used to have in an ALD by marking it as inactive, but it would still show. Or you could say that it's active. And so you see there. Um, and then if you wanted to know information about it or to see information, you would click on that link and then you'd see, okay, 1,000 tons of limestone. And if you wanted to add something else, um, again, let's say maybe you did have some settling ponds. You could scroll down, find settling ponds, and say, okay, we have three settling ponds, and they're all active. And you could put information about each one, or not. You could put settling pond one is 1,000 square feet, and settling pond two is 2,000 square feet. You do that or not put anything. It's totally up to you on what you want to include. But having those, but putting the treatment technologies and the number of them is very helpful. On the other side, so the project locations was included under that initial form. Here is where you would put information about funding. So you'll see up above that it says that the total cost is zero. Um, and that's because no funding sources have been added. Again, pretty simple. You just click Add New. And so then you come up with this little form. And so this title sort of will seem like a duplicate to you, but the reason is that this makes it an individual sort of um, so like an individual um, input. So you can put something as simple as, okay, we had growing greener funding, and then that's what you're calling it. You could call it, or you could call it, you know, Cliff. You could make it a more specific name, you know, growing greener grant, um, then the source is the actual type of funding. So this is where it might seem like it's duplicate information, but the title is almost like says that it's your grant, and then this is the type of funding that you're getting. And that may not be super clear. I probably need a better way of explaining that or saying that. Um, and actually maybe one way of doing it is let's call this, Cliff, and we're going to call this growing greener one. And um, let's just say that you got, $400,000 for that grant. And then you can choose what your funding date was, and you can go back in time here, scrolling up, so let's say you got in 2021 in January and 11th, whatever. And then let's say you realize that wasn't going to be enough, and let's say you submitted for another, growing greener grant. And so this could be the second growing greener grant that you got, or maybe the first grant was a design grant. Um, and so you call this, let's just call this growing greener too. Don't confuse that with the programs, but yeah, and so again, this is growing greener too. And let's say in this grant you got, $500,000. So now it shows each of those grants. It shows that they are both growing greener grants, how much you got, what the date was, and then you'll see up above that it totals those out to $900,000. So it will total, and you can put all kinds of different funding sources in. You can put in kind services. You can put in, all types, of grants. There's a specific one for Foundation for PA Watersheds. But then there's also like a thing like other. So you can even come in here and put in, other funding sources. Let's say you got 3,000 bucks. Um, oh, I need to put in, um, you know, Cliff's cash. Again, so it just adds that and then it adds it in here. It's pretty simple. Um, the organizations is there is a problem with this organizations. It's meant to be that you would click on this add new, just like these other funding sources, just like the funding sources, where you would click in and just, you know, choose the organization. The idea of this being partners. The way this is right now, if you come in here and click on this, you're basically creating the organizations. Well, the organization might already exist. And so what you end up is some duplicates within this organizations tab up here. So this is something that I need to really work with. It's not been a priority because of some other issues that we're focused on, but this is something that needs to be fixed. Um, for future use. The whole intention of this is being able to list who your project partners are. So you might have your organization in here. You might have, let's say, the local Boy Scout, Girl Scout troop, or maybe you worked with a college, or you worked with a designer, and you wanted to that's what this is intended to do. Um, and so that's not currently being displayed. This external systems ID, you don't have to worry about that. You can totally ignore that. That's an internal thing from SRI. All right. Sample points we'll be talking about. Data we'll be talking about. Gallery is for photos. So if you want to upload an image, you just click on upload image. You can give it a name. So I'm just gonna call this image one. Again, you can just draw, drag and drop. Um, you can, you can provide a description, um, and then save it. And it shows up in your photo gallery. You can click on it. Um, and our intention is eventually this is going to be fixed um, so that your description shows up down here below as a caption. Currently, it just shows what the name of it is. And then the next major portion here, and I think this will be the last thing we talk about today, is documents, right? So this documents is a really important feature because this is the place to store files, document type that are related to our projects. And so it's again a pretty simple process. You just come here under documents. Instead of going to view the documents, you click add new document. And so again, you're going to give it a file name, so that it shows up. So we're going to, let's say this is an O&M plan for your site. And then your file type, we talked about these during that last meeting, but so the categories, this helps kind of organize your documents. So when you go to look for them, it's a little bit easier to find. People can, see what's there and it's all organized. So the types of files that you can choose from is aerial photo, as-built drawings, design drawings. This executive summary can be an executive summary, or even, let's say you have a fax page, like a fax page or something that's kind of like that. General is kind of almost covers anything else. Maps. This is meant for if you have an O&M like inspection type form, or whoops, I accidentally clicked that. O&M plan instructions, your reports, so any kind of reports, whether that would be, an assessment report or maybe a final report, site schematics and written directions. So we're going to say that this is an O&M plan instructions. Again, you just simply drag and drop. And then save. And then it shows. Um, so this interesting little thing is this manage audience. And there is an issue right now, and I think it's a permission issue, that you might have to have a certain type of permission issue to be able to do this. And so this is something that's going to be changed. But what I am going to show you this, how this works. And so I'm gonna flip over and show you from my account, because I do want everyone to be able to utilize. uh, So let's say and the whole purpose of this audience feature, and I think it has some. I'm actually hoping we can utilize this in other parts of the website. But let's say you're uploading a file that pertains to more than one project. So for instance, let's say you did a giant restoration plan, and in that restoration plan, it referenced all kinds of data and watershed information, and you want that document to be in all of your projects. You don't have to upload it every time to each project. You can use this audience feature to share it essentially. It only gets uploaded once, but it shows up in other projects. And so by doing that, so I'm going to, well, I guess it doesn't matter which one I use. So I'm just gonna choose one here just for demonstration purposes. You hit Manage Audience. And it brings up this menu with it lists all the projects. And so you can see this one is checked. This is the project I'm actually on. And so I'm going to come down here, and what did I call that? Oh, yeah, Cliff's fake. So I'm going to come down, and let's say I want to add it to this Cliff fake PTS project. And then I go down below and say Save Audience Selection. All right, so I'm going to stop sharing. I'm going to come back to there's this one. Okay, and I'm gonna refresh that screen. And so now that same document is now showing up on this, for this project without having to actually upload it. And so that's really nice because that actually saves storage space for Datashed. as well as it saves you time, because you can imagine if particularly if you're a watershed group that's been a lot involved in a lot of projects, um, like I saw Janice on here earlier. So, Blacklick Creek, they have a bunch of projects. You could easily, assign this, a document that applies to all those projects by uploading it once and then sharing it. I'm actually hoping to be able to utilize that same feature for sample points, but I have not really explored that to see if that would actually work. Let's say, having sample points that are stored under a stream project and also being stored, that way you could actually like be able to, when you're on your project, your passive treatment project, you could say, I want to be able to look at the water quality compare of upstream and downstream here, but store it on under the stream project. Because what I'm hoping we'll be able to do in the future. Um, so I think that covers all of the general, being able to create projects.